Good day, spiritual beings, from Celestial Medium. Man has contemplated its origins since its self-aware existence began. Were we created by distant beings from the stars? Could the answers to humanity's deepest questions lie not in religion or science alone, but in the outer reaches of our solar system? Ancient myths, forbidden archaeology, and genetic enigmas all seem to point to a startling possibility: that humanity was seated here by design. In this video, we'll explore the mystery of the Anunnaki, the so-called gods of ancient Sumer, and the theory that human life may have extraterrestrial origins. So, let's take a journey into the stars and our forgotten past. In the vast reaches of space, far beyond the orbit of known planets, there existed a world on the edge of extinction called Nibiru. The Anunnaki were highly advanced technological beings who utilized technology to enhance its dying atmosphere. However, its civilization teetered on the brink. Stars couldn't be seen, the sun barely visible. These beings lived long lives, upwards of 200,000 years. Therefore, suffering through suffocating slowly was not a viable option. Their scientists discovered that gold, rare and resonant, held the key to restoring their world's protective atmosphere. Ejecting microscopic gold into the atmosphere would stabilize their planet. And so, in search of salvation, the Anunnaki turned their gaze toward the stars. Their search brought them to a small blue watery planet that they called Kai, what we call home or Earth. Rich in gold and resources, it was the perfect outpost. Nibiru came close to Earth every 3,600 years, so they waited. When the next planetary alignment came, they sped from Nibiru straight for Earth. The Anunnaki descended in fiery crafts, landing in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia. They were mesmerized by this planet of fertility. They called it Eden, the place of the righteous ones. Here, they built great cities, established outposts, and began their mining operations. For centuries, the lower-ranking Anunnaki, called Igigi, toiled beneath the earth. They dug deep into mountains and riverbeds for 150,000 years. But gold was not easily obtained. The labor was grueling, the conditions harsh, the Anunnaki cruel. Ships made constant trips between planets carrying the precious metals, until one day the Igigi had enough. In an act of defiance, they laid down their tools and revolted against their enslaver overlords. The great Anunnaki Council convened. The leaders and sons of Anu, Enki, the god of wisdom and water, Enlil, the commander of earth operations, and Ninhursag, the mother goddess, debated their options. To quell the uprising and continue their mission, a radical idea emerged: create a new being. Enki proposed to blend the genetic material of the Anunnaki with the primitive ape-like hominids native to Earth. With Ninhursag's sacred knowledge of life, they performed the first act of genetic engineering. At first, they create monstrosities, monsters that would walk the earth. But then they tried again by implanting in a female hominid. And from divine essence, the first human was born and called the Adamu. Not a child of love, but of necessity. Mankind, birthed from the fertile land of Mesopotamia, was created to serve as slaves, to dig, to farm, to labor in the place of so-called gods. Yet, in the design, Enki infused a spark: memory, curiosity, something that could not be controlled. Thus began the age of man, born from rebellion, shaped by the stars, and destined to awaken. In the ancient cradle of civilization called Mesopotamia lie the oldest known records of humanity's origins. In stone tablets, the Sumerians spoke of sky beings called the Anunnaki, those who came from the heavens to earth. These weren't mythic abstractions. The Anunnaki were 12 feet tall, human-like beings, and described in detail with names, duties, and even rivalries. They came to Earth for a purpose: to mine gold, essential for sustaining their planet's atmosphere. As the toil grew too great for the previously enslaved Igigi, the Anunnaki created yet another slave labor force, humanity. According to the Atrahasis and Enuma Elish, the god Enki took genetic material from the Anunnaki and fused it with that of a primitive hominid. Thus, the Adamu, the first human, was born. In his book, The 12th Planet, Zecharia Sitchin proposed that these beings came from the rogue planet of Nibiru with its 3,600-year irregular orbit. Critics scoff at the idea, but many ancient cultures described long celestial cycles and visitors from the sky. In recent years, astronomers have found compelling evidence for a possible ninth planet, sometimes called Planet X or Planet 9, lurking in the far reaches of our solar system. Though not yet directly observed, its gravitational effects on distant celestial bodies suggest a massive, unseen object orbiting the sun every 10,000 to 20,000 years. This lends unexpected support to the notion that a distant planetary body like Nibiru could indeed exist and may have influenced both planetary alignments and ancient myths. But the story deepens. Enki had a relationship with a human, which was forbidden, thereby having a child, Adapa. From Adapa came a line of smarter and more violent breed of humans. Gilgamesh, Hercules, Samson, and Perseus were the children of Anunnaki and humans. Enlil, one of the chief Anunnaki, played a pivotal role, while Enki, the scientist, sought to assist and uplift humanity. Enlil saw humans as noisy, troublesome creatures. He enforced strict control and demanded obedience. When the population grew too large and unruly, it was Enlil who unleashed plagues and, ultimately, the Great Flood to cull them. The human race, in his view, was to be an enslaved workforce, nothing more. They could be both benevolent and ruthless. It was only through Enki's intervention that humans survived as he hid them away with warnings of the coming deluge. Thus, we see the ancient tension between tyranny, enslavement, and compassion, between the celestial overlords and their hybrid creation. Across continents, ancient cultures recorded visitations from sky gods. They came in fire, in light, in winged ships, bringing knowledge and laws, then vanishing into the stars. The Dogon tribe of Mali, West Africa, had accurate knowledge of Sirius B, a tiny dense companion, star to Sirius A, centuries before modern astronomy could detect it. They described its density, orbit, and even mentioned a third star, Sirius C, still debated by scientists. Their explanation? These fish-like star beings arrived in a spinning, fiery ship and were said to have created life on Earth and taught humanity the foundations of civilization. These patterns echo in South America. The Nazca lines stretch like ancient landing strips across the Peruvian desert. Incan and Mayan records describe shining star beings who descended in times of darkness. Native American tribes like the Hopi speak of the Kachinas, a star people who guided their ancestors through past world ages. In India, ancient Sanskrit texts detail flying machines called vimanas. In the Mahabharata, these crafts wage wars in the sky. In the Ramayana, the Pushpaka Vimana transports gods between realms. The Vimanaka Shastra outlines propulsion systems, metals, and aerodynamics in technical language centuries before modern flight. These are not simple metaphors. The descriptions often include flight mechanics, energy sources, and aerial battles, leading many to believe they were based on real observations or memories of advanced technology. And in Egypt, the gods themselves were stars. Osiris, the dying and reborn god, was associated with Orion and Sirius. His consort Isis, the Great Mother, was Sirius incarnate. Each year, Sirius's heliacal rising signaled the Nile flood, the lifeblood of Egypt, and symbolized renewal and resurrection. Temples were aligned to Sirius and Orion. The pyramids of Giza are aligned not just with the cardinal points, but also with Orion's belt, believed to represent Osiris in the sky. This wasn't coincidence. It was reverence for the beings who came from the stars. Some researchers believe Osiris was not just a godlike mythic figure, but an advanced extraterrestrial being who came from Sirius and brought the Egyptians their advanced knowledge of agriculture, timekeeping, and sacred architecture. Biblical texts also hint at celestial visitors. In the book of Genesis, the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, a cryptic phrase interpreted by many as referencing divine or extraterrestrial beings. The book of Enoch, once revered and now considered apocryphal, describes the Watchers, angels who descended from the heavens and taught humanity arts, science, and war, but were punished for their interference. These Watchers, or Grigori, took human wives and sired a race of giants called the Nephilim. This act of transgression brought chaos to the earth and angered the higher powers. The Watchers were bound and cast into the depths, awaiting judgment. Their tale is not only a cautionary myth, but possibly a remembrance of real events, beings from beyond who mingled with early humans and changed the course of history. Ezekiel, in a vision, sees a fiery chariot with wheels within wheels and beings of light, a description that modern readers liken to an advanced spacecraft. Even in Revelation, mysterious beings and cosmic battles suggest something far more interstellar than symbolic. We find references everywhere to beings descending from the heavens, often to teach, sometimes to rule, and always to shape human destiny. Are these shared myths just coincidence or ancient testimony? Let's move from the temples of Earth to the temples within us, our DNA. While mainstream science holds that Homo sapiens evolved through natural selection, there are major gaps in the timeline, moments where change happened too quickly and too precisely to be easily explained. The transition from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens brought a sudden leap in brain size, language ability, self-awareness, and creativity. Evolutionarily speaking, it was almost instantaneous. But what caused this evolutionary explosion? One of the most significant anomalies lies in chromosome 2. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Apes have 24. That's because, somewhere in the past, 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused, creating a unique and highly specific chromosome only found in modern humans. The fusion point even includes extra telomere sequences in the middle, something never seen in natural chromosome fusion. It's as if someone took 2 pieces of genetic code, spliced them together, and sealed them seamlessly. A kind of advanced biological stitching. As author Greg Braden said, this fusion is not a random mutation. It appears to have been engineered. This fusion may have given rise to key traits in human consciousness and cognition. The human brain tripled in size in just a few million years. However, more astonishingly, many of our higher faculties appeared with no clear evolutionary driver. Around 50,000 years ago, something changed. Cave paintings, symbolic language, burial rituals, all emerged at once. It's called the Great Leap Forward in anthropology. But no one can explain what triggered it. Was it environmental pressure, a dietary change, or a genetic update? Over 90% of our DNA was once called junk DNA. But researchers are discovering it's not junk at all. It contains regulatory elements, switches, and hidden information. It sounds like science fiction, but It's increasingly discussed in serious scientific journals, especially as we discover underwater species that defy science, extremophiles that can survive space, and amino acids on meteorites. What if Earth's evolution was nudged, not just from microbes hitching rides on meteors, but by beings who knew how to edit DNA, uplift species, and steer evolution across galaxies? If the Anunnaki or others like them had advanced bioengineering skills, it might explain why we are so different from everything else on Earth, not just physically, but spiritually, intellectually, and consciously. So, if we were seeded or guided by cosmic beings, what was their goal? Were we created as laborers for mining, as Sitchin believed? Or was our creation part of a broader divine plan? Ancient civilizations often spoke of time not as a straight line, but a cycle, an eternal rhythm of creation, destruction, and rebirth. In Hindu cosmology, the yugas tell of golden ages, followed by dark times, and then the return of wisdom. The Mayans describe previous worlds destroyed by fire and flood. The Egyptians too believed in Zep-Tepi, which means the first time, when gods ruled on earth, followed by chaos and then renewal. In each case, beings from the stars were said to return after global cataclysms, to rebuild, to restart civilization, to lift humanity from the ashes. Viracocha emerged from Lake Titicaca after a cataclysm to repopulate the Andes. Quetzalcoatl returned after destruction to bring new knowledge to the Mesoamericans. After the Great Flood, the Sumerian god Enki warned his chosen Zeus Sudra. Just as Noah was warned in the Bible and Utnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Could it be that Earth undergoes periodic resets, cosmic catastrophes, natural or artificial, after which these beings of higher intelligence return to reboot civilization, teach agriculture, mathematics, astronomy, and reseed spiritual knowledge? Some believe we are nearing the end of one such cycle, and that the return of the watchers, the teachers, the so-called gods is already underway. As we journey through the myths, monuments, and mysteries of our distant past, a pattern emerges. One that challenges everything we think we know about where we come from. Ancient civilizations, from the Sumerians and Egyptians to the Dogon of Mali and the Maya of Mesoamerica, all speak of beings who descended from the stars. They brought knowledge, language, agriculture, astronomy, and laws. Their monuments align with celestial bodies as though paying homage to their cosmic ancestors or pointing us toward our ancestral home. The story of the Anunnaki is not just a tale of gods in gold, but a mirror reflecting our own quest for identity. If we were seeded by beings from beyond, then what does that say about our destiny? Are we bound to the earth or destined to return to the stars from which we came? While the idea that humans were created as a servant race may feel uncomfortable, suggesting we were not born for higher purpose, we must remember this. What gives man life is not the will of the Anunnaki. It is the divine spark, the breath of the Creator. Nothing in creation exists without the spirit of the divine flowing through it. Regardless of our origin, we are still sacred beings, imbued with consciousness and potential beyond understanding. As science uncovers new frontiers, exoplanets, genetic codes, and deep space signals, we are beginning to glimpse a truth that ancient people may have always known, that humanity is not alone and never was. We are the children of stardust, encoded with mysteries, longing for remembrance. Perhaps one day soon, we'll rediscover the lost chapters of our cosmic origins, Anunnaki or otherwise. Until then, keep asking questions, keep searching, because the truth is out there, written in stone, written in stars, and written within you. Namaste.